Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda Sadguru Nath Maharaj Ki Jai. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyahet Sarva Vignopashantahe. Namo Namas Sadgurubhya Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Namas Sadgurubhya Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Yam Pravrajantamanupetam Apeta Dvaipayano viraha katara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya tarabobhineduhu tam sarva bhuta hridayam munimanatosmi yasvanubhavam akila shruti saramekam adhyatma deepam atititirshatam tamondham samsarinam karunayaha purana guhyam tam vyasa sunum upayami gurum muninam योगीन्द्राय नमस्तस्मै शुकाय ब्रह्मरूपिणे संसार सर्पदष्टं यो विष्णुरातम् अमूमुचते कालव्यालमुखघ्रास त्रास निर्नाश हेतवे श्रीमद्भागवतं शास्त्रं कलोकीरेण भाषितम् एतस्मादपरं किञ्चित् मनःशुद्ध्यै न विद्यते जन्मान्तरे भवेत् पुण्यं तदा भागवतं लभेत् ज्ञानवैराग्यसम्पूर्णान् हरिभक्तिपरायणान् पूर्वाचार्यातहं वन्दे सम्प्रदाय प्रवर्तकान् भगवन्नाम साम्राज्य लक्ष्मी सर्वस्व विग्रहं श्रीमद्बोधेन्द्र योगीन्द्र देशिकेन्द्रम् उपास्महे कलिकालोचितं धर्मं नाम संकीर्तनात्मकं निर्णेतुम् अवतीर्णं तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे हरे रामेति कृष्णेति नाम संकीर्तनं सदा लोकक्षेमाय कुर्वन्तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयात् इतरतश्चार्तेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृतां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनं श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषिभिस्तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्ष कृष्ण एव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुख्यर्थं भवसागरे मनोरथो मदीयोऽयं सफलः सर्वथा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यो दासोऽहं तव केशव श्रीहरे नमः श्रीहरे नमः श्रीहरे नमः गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्दा सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. Thank you everyone. Thank you for adjusting the change time. Because we only have 1 hour, I'll skip the review for today's class and then we just directly jump into the class. So I still next class கூப்பிடுறேன்.
இல்ல அதுக்கு ப்ரிப்பேர் ஆக இருப்பேன் இந்த கிளாஸ்ல ப்ரிப்பேர் ஆனேன் சோ எனக்கு எக்ஸ்கியூஸ்
That's why I didn't tell it ahead of time, so you prepare.
That's the karma, Shobha.
No, Sindhuji, I'm excused for 3 weeks now. I'm happy. Excellent.
So anyway, there's still a lot of meaning left in 4.12 that we have to finish. So I'll get going on that, right? So the where we left last on this is the last, the ending of Dhruva Charitram. So where we kind of left last was Nanda, Sunanda, the two, the extensions of Bhagavan who are his devotees. They come to take Dhruva. And then Dhruva says, I also need my mother Suniti to come, and she is also escorted, right? So now it just talks about how, Dhruva is leaving this material world and then he's actually going to Dhruvalokam. So when he's going through it, it talks through the journey he's actually undertaking. So which means talks about how he's able to see all the other planetary systems which are actually there. He's passing through all of those things. And the exact location, see, Dhruva Mandalam is technically it is still within this Brahmandam, that this Brahmandam which is there about all the 14 worlds where we have the Brahma, it is still within the Brahmandam, but it is above all the worlds of the Brahmandam, right? So, it talks about how he's ascending and then he's actually going through all the worlds. He's passing all the 14 worlds, or he's passing through all the worlds, not necessarily the Patala and all, but he's kind of going above all the worlds, but he's still within the Brahmandam. So he passes where the Saptarishi Mandala is there, all of that, and finally he reaches Dhruva Mandala. And it talks about the greatness of the Dhruva Mandala. He's saying that unlike other planets which depend on a star for light, this Dhruva Mandala system, its planets, or is a self illuminating, right? It actually gets energy and it actually illuminates all the other planets. It's a very powerful area where Dhruva is finally able to actually go. And it talks about how, like which I mentioned before, right? Saying all the other planetary systems revolve around the Dhruva Mandalam, with that to its right. Right. So with that, finally Dhruva reaches the Dhruva Mandalam. So this kind of comes to the end of Dhruva's story, right, which is there. But it continues here a little bit to say that, he talks suddenly about how Narada, who is aware of all the great achievements of Dhruva, who has witnessed Dhruva, like he witnessed Dhruva when he was 5 years old, right? So from that time, he knows what has happened to Dhruva. So he sees this great ascension of Dhruva, and he goes, and I'm literally going to say the sequence in which Bhagavatam is written, right? So he goes to the place where the Prachetas are actually doing a sacrifice. Now, people may ask, who are these Prachetas? That question is going to get asked in the next chapter. So we'll wait on that. So the Prachetas, they are actually doing a big sacrifice. And these Prachetas are actually extremely great devotees. We are going to see how they are actually going to do tapas under the water for 10,000 years, right? That's how great these devotees are. But in the midst of those devotees, Narada is going and talking about Dhruva Charitram. So the question comes is, why does the Narada have to go talk about Dhruva Charitram to the Prachetas who are so great? That's the importance of Dhruva Charitram, right? So when we can't even ask, why do I have to learn about Dhruva Charitram? Why should I hear about Dhruva Charitram? Is because even the greatest of devotees like Prachetas are being told about Dhruva Charitram, because that is how important it is, right? And Narada himself is saying that this is an unbelievable episode of devotion, right? So this is an example to say how somebody who was just 5 years old, who got offended with what his mother says, and then in 5 months, he actually got Bhagavan under control. By control means Bhagavan is not easily capturable to everybody, but that Bhagavan Swayam came in front of Dhruva and offered him this Dhruva Mandalam. So just talking and hearing about Dhruva's story is you will just get people more towards devotion than anything else, right? So Narada talks about this to the Prachetas. Now, so with that small portion which is actually there, then Maitreya is actually continuing and he talks about the Phalastuti of Dhruva Charitram. It says, what are the benefits one will get by hearing about, talking about, chanting about Dhruva Charitram? So if you look at stanza 45 and we'll go through it, Dhanyam, Yashasyam, Ayushyam, Punyam, Swasti, Ayanam, Mahat, Swargyam, Drauvyam, Saumanasyam. So it talks about all the things, whether it is, Dhanyam, wealth, or Yashasyam, kind of, getting the reputation, or Ayushyam, long life. So whatever you want, all of these things, there are so many benefits of listening to and talking about Dhruva Charitram, right? And he says, by, it's not possible for normal beings to actually attain the level of elevation that Dhruva has actually attained. And it's not only bestows a lot of things, it also removes out, cleans out a lot of the sinful activities we have created, or we must have created all this, right? So the important thing here is one should very faithfully hear and reflect on the story of Dhruva. So it's not just we hear about it and forget about it. You need to contemplate on it, right? Is, what was the great things that Dhruva has done, because of which Bhagavan came and met him. And by doing this, he says all the miseries of life. There are three kinds of miseries. Things that we cause onto ourselves, right? We do stupid things, we get misery onto ourselves. Somebody else causes misery to us. Then there are natural forces which may cause misery. There are three types of misery. So all of this will reduce. You will not ever get out of it, right? Whatever is going to happen is going to happen, but it will help you reduce those miseries and actually help you counteract all of those things, right? So with that, he talks about when you should chant it, right? Like normal Phalastuti always is there a specific time when you need to chant? Of course, you can chant it anytime, but it talks about, chanting about it in the morning and the evening, right? With lot of care. And it very specifically says, chant it in the company of people who are also similarly inclined. Because like the satsangam is very important, right? So chanting it with people who are also similarly inclined, discussing about the Dhruva Charitram will be very good. And then it specifically, talks about in 50 Paurnamasyam, Paurnami, Sinivalyam, which is Amavasai, Dwadashyam on the Dwadashi day, Shravane, so Shravana Nakshatram day. So similarly in Arkadine is Sunday. So it talks about in all these different days where you can chant it. Of course, chant it any day, but there are specific days where it actually has, more, what you call great power out of it. And that's how he comes to an end saying that anybody who chants, listens to it, talks about it, preaches about it, will get more devotion, because that is the primary purpose, right? Is to talking about these great devotees like Dhruva will also get us more and more devoted towards Bhagavan, right? So with this, Maitreya says, this is the end of Dhruva Charitram, talking about the greatness of Dhruva, which is why it has 6 chapters, right, on it, because that is the important of the Dhruva Charitram there. With that, the Dhruva Charitram comes to an end in 12. Yeah.
When we learned about the creation, at that time Dhruva Mandalam was not there. Is that right?
So Dhruva Mandalam
And
is still
later,
there. It's one of those things which is not explicitly called out as the 14 lokas. It generally stops at Satya Loka.
so it's above that, and then
Yeah, it is
Bhagavan just named it as Dhruva Mandalam.
Dhruva Mandalam. Yeah, so it's just a region which is there, which like you said, the region was always there. I don't know what, maybe it didn't have a name or what it was, right? So that nobody was ruling over that, and that place is now called Dhruva Loka, which is where Dhruva ends up going.
Okay. Is it one of the 14, or is it counted in that 14?
It is not, there's no standard definition. I think it when we say the 14, when we say a particular Satya Loka, it is like, it's not just one planetary system or something there, right? It is like a series of, it's a plane of consciousness or a plane of planets. Think of it that way. Yeah, I don't know if Dhruva is technically is the 15th, or is it just in the 14th? There's no specific thing, but it just says it is above the 3 verse, but it is still part of the Brahmanda. That's the only reference to it, right?
Sindhuji, I just posted an image. You can see that lokas.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Rajesh.
All right, we'll start with 33. Let me see who all I have today. Anandji, you can be a student. Through my list. Vijaya, you can be a student. I think we have to start from 33. Iti vyavasitam tasya, vyavasaya surottamau, darshayam asatur devim, puro yanena gacchatim. Iti vyavasitam tasya, vyavasaya surottamau, darshayamasatur devim, puro yanena gacchatim.
Idhi vyavasitam tasya vyavasaya surotamo darshayamastu devim puroyanena gacchatim. Masatur devim. Sorry.
Yeah, Masatur devim.
Iti vyavasthitam tasya vyavasaya surodhamao darshayamasa durdevim puroyanena gacchatim.
Tatra prashamsadbhihi, pati vaimanikais suraihi, avakiryamano dadrishe, kusumaih kramasho grahan. Tatra prashamsadbhihi, pati vaimanikais suraihi, avakiryamano dadrishe, kusumaih kramasho grahan.
Tatra prashamsadbhihi padi vaimanike surehi avakiryamano dadrishe kusume kramasho grahan.
Tatra prashamsadbhihi padi vaimanikais suraihi avakiryamano tatrushe kusumai kramasho grahan.
Triloki deva yanena, soti vrajya muninapi parastadhyat dhruva gatihi visarga, Vishnov padam athabhyagat. Padam athabhyagat. See, that's why in a lot of places that just very loosely it says Vishnu Padam, right? So it's referred to as Vishnu Lok. It's different from Vaikuntham, right? But it's referred to as Vishnu Padam. So it's a, to your question, it's a region which primarily did not have a name, but it is where, it's owned by Vishnu. Think of it that way, right? It's Vishnu Padam.
Okay.
So that's now called as Dhruva Padam, right? Going forward. So त्रिलोकीं देवयानेन सोतिव्रज्य मुनीनपि परस्ताद्य ध्रुवगतिः विष्णोः पदमताभ्यघात्.
त्रिलोकीं देवयानेन सोऽधिव्रज्य मुनीनपि परस्ताद्यद्ध्रुवगतिः विष्णोपदमदाभ्यगात्.
त्रिलोकीं देवयानेन सोऽधिव्रज्य मुनीनपि परस्ताद्यध्रुवगतिः विष्णोः पदम् अदाप्यगात्.
यत् भ्राजमानं स्वरुचैव सर्वतो, लोकास्त्रयो ह्यनु विभ्राजन्त एते यन्नाव्रजन् जन्तुषु येननुग्रहाः. So add a visarga because you're putting a comma there. Yenanugrahaha, brajanti bhadrani charanti yenisham. Yad bhrajamanam swaruchaiva sarvato lokastrayo hyanu vibhrajanta ete yenna brajan jantushu yenanugrahaha brajanti bhadrani charanti yenisham.
यद्भ्राजमानं स्वरुचैव सर्वतो लोकस्त्रयो हि विभ्राञ्जन्ते यन्नाव्रजन्तु अननुग्रहाः व्रजन्ति भद्राणि चरन्ति ये निशम्.
So that he, anu, right? It is correct, but those are the two words. But generally in Sanskrit, that he and a becomes hyanu. So hyanu, hyanu.
Okay.
यत्प्राजमानं स्वरुसैव सर्वतो लोकाश्रयो येनु विभ्राजन्त हेते यन्नाव्रजन् जन्तुषु हे ननुग्रहाः प्रजन्ति भद्राणि चरन्ति ये निशम्.
शान्तास् समदृशः शुद्धाः, sarvabhutanuranjanaha. So next word, long word, yantyanjasachyuta. So yantyanjasa achyuta, remember that word which is embedded there. Yantyanjasachyuta padam, break at that ma, achyuta priya bandavaha. Shanta samadrisha shuddhaha sarvabhutanuranjanaha yantyञ्जसाच्युतपदम् अच्युतप्रियबान्धवाः.
शान्ता समदृशशुद्धाः सर्वभूतानुरञ्जनाः यान्तिञ्जसाच्युतपदम् अच्युतप्रियबान्धवाः.
शान्ता समदृशशृन्धाः सर्वभूतानुरञ्जनाः यान्त्यच्युतपदम् अच्युतप्रियबान्धवाः.
Second line of the first part, there's no easy way to say that. Yantyञ्जसाच्युत.
यान्त्यञ्जस्याच्युत.
And the enjasa kapram achyuta vandrum. So on the add edradhu. So yantyञ्जसाच्युत.
Okay. यान्त्यञ्जसाच्युत.
Yeah, இன்னுக்கு அப்புறம் there is a it sound. Yantyञ्जसा.
Okay. यान्त्यञ्जसाच्युत padam.
Padam, yeah. So the achyuta padam, I just merged there, that's all.
The first line, Shuddha, dane, Shanta Samadrisha Shuddha.
Shuddhaha. Ityuttana padaf putro, Dhruvah Krishna Parayanah Abhut Trayanam Lokanam, Chudamani Rivamalaha. Ityuttana padaf putro Dhruva Krishna Parayanah Abhutrayanam Lokanam Chudamani Rivamalaha.
इत्युत्थानपदपुत्रो ध्रुवकृष्णपरायणः अभूत्रयाणां लोकानां चूडामणिरिवामलः
इत्युत्थानपदः पुत्रो ध्रुवकृष्णपरायणः अभूत्रयाणां लोकानां चूडामणिरिवामलः
गंभीर वेगो निमिषम, that comes together, वेगो निमिषम, comma, ज्योतिषां चक्रमाहितं यस्मिन् भ्रमति कौरव्य, comma, मेढ्यामिव गवां गणः. गंभीर वेगो निमिषं ज्योतिषां चक्रमाहितं यस्मिन् भ्रमति कौरव्य मेढ्यामिव गवां गणः.
गम्भीरवेगो निमिषं ज्योतिषां चक्रमाहितं यस्मिन् भ्रमति कौरव्य मेढ्यामिव गवां गणः.
गम्भीरवेगो निमिषं ज्योतिषां चक्रमाहितं यस्मिन् भ्रामति गौरव्य मेढ्यामिव गवां गणः.
Second line, second word, भ्रमति.
भ्रमति. Okay.
महिमानं विलोक्यास्य, comma, नारदो भगवान् ऋषिः आतोध्यं वितुदन् श्लोकान्, comma, सत्रे गायत् prachetasa. So here is where he's going to where the prachetas are performing the yajna, and he gives the 3 stanzas that Narada tells. महिमानं विलोक्यास्य नारदो भगवान् ऋषिः आतोध्यं वितुदन् श्लोकान् सत्रे गायत् प्रचेतसाम्.
महिमानं विलोक्यास्य नारदो भगवान् ऋषिः आदोद्यं विदुदन् श्लोकान् सत्रे गायत् प्रचेतसाम्.
महिमानं विलोक्यास्य नारदो भगवान् ऋषिः आधोत्यं विदुधन् श्लोकान् सत्रे गायत् प्रचेतसाम्.
नारदो वाच नूनं सुनीतेः पति देवतायाः, इस् goes away, विसर्ग कॉमा, देवतायाः तपः प्रभावस्य सुतस्य तां गतिं दृष्ट्वाभ्युपायानपि, one word, दृष्ट्वाभ्युपायानपि वेदवादिनो, कॉमा, नैवादिगन्तुं प्रभवन्ति किं नृपाः. नारदो उवाच नूनं सुनीतेः पतिदेवतायाः तपः प्रभावस्य सुतस्य तां गतिं दृष्ट्वाभ्युपायानपि वेदवादिनो नैवाधिगन्तुं प्रभवन्ति किं नृपाः.
नारद उवाच नूनं सुनीते पतिदेवतायाः तपः प्रभावस्य सुतस्य तां गतिं दृष्टाभ्युपायानपि वेदवादिनो नैवादिगन्धं प्रभवन्ति किं नृपाः.
नारद उवाच नूनं सुनीतेः पतिदेवतायाः तपः प्रभावस्य सुतस्य धां गतिं दृष्ट्वाभ्युपायानपि वेदवादिनो नैवाधिगन्तुं प्रभवन्ति किं नृपाः.
यः पञ्चवर्षो गुरुधार वाक्शरैः, विसर्ग कॉमा, next end of the bhi there is a ir that goes away, भिन्नेन यातो हृदयेन दूयता वनं मदाशेष करोजितं प्रभुं, कॉमा, जिगाय तद् भक्त गुणैः पराजितम्. यः पञ्चवर्षो गुरुधार वाक्शरैः भिन्नेन यातो हृदयेन दूयता वनं मदाशेष करोजितं प्रभुं जिगाय तद्भक्त गुणैः पराजितम्.
ராஜேஷ் செகண்ட் லைன்ல மதா தேச கரோன்னு போட்டிருக்கு.
ஆமா.
What did I say? Sorry.
Shesha.
Huh?
Shesha you said.
Oh, say Mada Desha. Mada Desha. Yeah.
यः पञ्चवर्षो गुरुधारवाक्षरैः भिन्नेन यादो हृदयेन दूयत वनं मदादेशकरोचितं प्रभुं जिगाय तद्भक्तगुणे पराजितम्.
यः पञ्चवर्षो गुरुधारवाक्षरैः भिन्नेन यातो हृदयेन धूयता वनं मदादेशकरो जितं प्रभुं जिगाय तत्पक्तगुणैः प्रजा पराजितम्
Yaha, so you say that visarga, yaha kshatra bandhur bhuvi tasyadhi rudham. So break at that ma, im, comma. Next word starts with a. Anvarurukshedapi, one word. Anvarurukshedapi varsha pugaihi shat pancha varsho yadahobhiralpaihi, comma, prasadhya vaikuntham avapa tatpadam. यः क्षत्रबन्धुर्भुवि तस्याधिरूढम् अन्वारुरुक्षेदपि वर्षपूगैः षट्पञ्चवर्षो यदहोभिरल्पैः प्रसाद्य वैकुण्ठमवाप तत्पदम्
यः क्षत्रबन्धुर्भुवि तस्याधिरूढम् अन्वारुरुक्षेत् अभिवर्षभोगैः षट्पञ्चवर्षो यदहोभिरल्पैः प्रसाद्य वैकुण्ठमवाप तत्पदम्.
That first one, Anandji, you can, it's like yah kshatra.
Yah kshatrabandhur.
Yeah.
Thank you.
यः शत्रबन्धुः पुवितस्याधिरूढम् अन्वारुरुक्षतपि वर्षभोगैः षट्पञ्चवर्षो यदहोभिरल्पैः प्रसाद्य वैकुण्ठम् अवाप तत्पदम्
मैत्रेयो उवाच एतत्तेभिहितं सर्वं, comma, यत् पृष्टोऽहमिह त्वया ध्रुवस्योद्धाम, double the ध्रुवस्योद्धाम यशसः, that ish goes away, visarga, comma, charitam sammatam satam. So from here Maitreya talks about the phalastuti of Dhruva Charitram. Maitreya uvacha etatte bihitam sarvam yat prishtohamiha tvaya dhruvasyodhama yashasah charitam sammatam satam.
Maitreya uvacha edette vihidam sarvam yat prashtoham iha tvaya dhruvosyo dhama yashasah charitam sammadam sadam.
मैत्रेय उवाच एतत्ते विहितं सर्वं यत्पृष्टोऽहम् इह त्वया ध्रुवस्योत्थाम यशसः सरितं सम्मदं सधाम्
धन्यं यशस्यं आयुष्यं, comma, पुण्यं स्वस्त्ययनं महत् स्वर्ग्यं द्रव्यं सौमनस्यं, comma, प्रशस्यम् अघमर्षणम्. धन्यं यशस्यमायुष्यं पुण्यं स्वस्त्ययनं महत् स्वर्ग्यं द्रव्यं सौमनस्यं प्रशस्यम् अघमर्षणम्.
धन्यं यशस्यं आयुष्यं पुण्यं स्वस्त्ययनं महद स्वर्ग्यं द्रव्यं सौमनस्यं प्रशस्यम् अगमर्षणम्.
धन्यं यशस्यम् आयुष्यं पुण्यं स्वस्त्ययनं महत् स्वर्ग्यं द्रव्यं सौमनस्यं स्वर्ग्यं द्रव्यं सौमनस्यं प्रशस्यम् अघमर्षणम्.
Swargyam refers to, like, Swarga. So all the heavenly planets, Swargyam. Dravyam refers to Dhruva Loka. So Dhruva, the sthanam of Dhruva, Dravyam. Sau Manasyam means like Manas, so peace of mind, right? Pleasing, being calm, equanimity of mind. And Aghamarshana is kind of like, all the sinful activities trying to, negating all the other sins. It kind of cleanses all the sins. Shrutvaitach Shraddhaya Bhikshnam, break at that im there, comma, Achyuta Priyacheshtitam, Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavati, comma, Yaya Syat Klesha Samkshayah. And this is the important thing here is why it's considered even great is because Dhruva is the greatest. Bhagavan felt more happy with Dhruva. So that's why the more Bhagavan likes somebody, that person is talking or hearing or listening about that person is beneficial, right? Because it kind of goes a little bit in the pecking order, right? So because of that, hearing more about Dhruva, talking more about Dhruva will also get us closer to that. श्रुत्वैतच्छ्रद्धया भीक्ष्णम् अच्युत प्रियचेष्टितम् भवेद् भक्तिर्भगवती यया स्यात् क्लेश संक्षयः
कृत्वेतत् श्रद्धया भीष्णम् अच्युत प्रियचेष्टितम् भवेत् भक्तिर्भगवती यया स्यात् क्लेश संशयः
कृत्वैतत् श्रद्धया भीष्णम् अच्युत प्रिय सेष्टितं भवेत् भक्तिर्भगवती यया स्यात् क्लेश संक्षयः
महत्त्वम् इच्छतां तीर्थं श्रोतुशीलादयो गुणाः यत्र तेजस्तदिच्छूनां मनो यत्र मनस्विनाम्
मानो
यत्र मनस्विनाम् महत्त्वम् इच्छतां तीर्थं श्रोतुशीलादयो गुणाः यत्र तेजस्तदिच्छूनां मानो यत्र मनस्विनाम्
महत्त्वम् इच्छतां तीर्थं श्रोतुशीलादयो गुणाः यत्र तेजस्तदुच्छूनां मानो यत्र मनस्विनाम्
महत्त्वम् इच्छतां तीर्थं श्रोतुशीलादयो गुणाः यत्र तेजस्तदिच्छूनां मानो यत्र मनस्विनाम्
प्रयतः कीर्तयेत् प्रातः समवाये द्विजन्मनां सायं च पुण्यश्लोकस्य ध्रुवस्य चरितं महत् प्रयतः कीर्तयेत् प्रातः समवाये द्विजन्मनां सायं च पुण्यश्लोकस्य ध्रुवस्य चरितं महत्
प्रयतः कीर्तयेत् प्रातः समवाये द्विजन्मनां सायं च पुण्यश्लोकस्य ध्रुवस्य चरितं महत्
प्रयतः कीर्तयेत् प्रातः समवायद्विजन्मनां सायं च पुण्यश्लोकस्य ध्रुवस्य चरितं महत्
पौर्णमास्यां सिनीवाल्यां द्वादश्यां श्रवणेऽथवा दिनक्षये व्यतीपाते संक्रमेर्कदिनेऽपि वा. So that word is one word. It's three different words, but say it together. संक्रमेर्कदिनेऽपि वा. पौर्णमास्यां सिनीवाल्यां द्वादश्यां श्रवणेऽथवा दिनक्षये व्यतीपाते संक्रमेर्कदिनेऽपि वा.
पौर्णम्यास्यां सिनीवाल्यां द्वादश्यां श्रवणेऽथवा दिनक्षये व्यतीपाते संक्रमेर्कदिनेऽपि वा.
पौर्णमास्यां शनिवाल्यां द्वादश्यां श्रवणेऽथवा दिनक्ष्ये व्यतिपाते संक्रमेर्कदिनेऽपि वा.
Second line, first word, dinakshaye.
दिनक्षये.
So here, like I said, Paurnamasyam, Paurnami, Sinivalyam, Amavasya day, Dwadashyam, so on Dwadashi day, Shravane, so Shravana Nakshatram, then Sankrame is like the end of the month, period during the end of the month. Arkadine is referring to Sunday, the day of the sun. That's literally what it is. So in all of those.
Today is actually Dwadasi Shravanam.
Today is Dwadashi Shravana Nakshatram.
On Sunday.
Oh, wow. Correct. Dwadashi Shravanam on Sunday, Arkadine. So even more special, we are finishing up Dhruva Charitram on this day.
I know. When you told on the very first, when we started the class, I was on mute. Appe nanache, inniki Dwadashi.
I
didn't know Shravana Nakshatram. Today is Arka also, Sunday also.
Yeah, Shravanam.
No, that's so awesome. Okay. Paurnamasya, we did that. Yeah.
50.
Shravayech, Shraddadhananam, Tirtha Pada Padashrayah, Nechans Tatratmanatmanam. So Nechams Tatratmana Atmanam. So it comes together, Santushta iti Siddhyati. Shravayech Shraddadhananam, Tirtha Pada Padashrayah, Necham Satratmanatmanam Santushta iti Siddhyati.
रावये श्रद्धदानानां तीर्थपादपदाश्रयः नेचं तत्रात्मनात्मानं सन्तुष्ट इति सिद्ध्यति
श्रावयेत् श्रद्धधानानां तीर्थपादपदाश्रयः नेच्छन्तत्रात्मन् आत्मानं सन्तुष्ट इति सिद्ध्यति.
And the second line, first part is like as much as possible. Tatratmanatmanam as one word.
Tatratmanatmanam.
Yeah,
Okay.
santushta. All right, let's just switch because we only have some time today. Atte, Gomati Atte, you can be a student, and Vasu, if you are there, you can be a student. Jnanam ajnata tattvaya, comma, yo dhadyat satpate mritam, kripalor dina nathasya, comma, devas tasyanu ghrannate. Jnanam ajnata tattvaya yo dadhyat satpate mritam kripalor deenanathasya devastasya gೃಹ್ಣತೆ.
ज्ञानमज्ञाततत्त्वाय यो दद्यात् सत्पथेऽमृतं कृपालोर्दीननाथस्य देवास्तस्यानुगृह्णते
ज्ञानमाज्ञातत्त्वाय यो दद्या सत्पथेऽमृतं कृपालोर्दीननाथस्य देवास्तस्यानुगृह्णते.
Idam maya tebihitam kurudvah, comma, dhruvasya vikhyatha vishuddha karmanah hitvarbhakah क्रीडन कानि मातुः विसर्ग कॉमा गृहं च विष्णुं शरणं यो जगाम. इदं मया ते विहितं कुरुद्वः ध्रुवस्य विख्यात विशुद्ध कर्मणः हित्वार्भकः क्रीडनकानि मातुः गृहं च विष्णुं शरणं यो जगाम.
इदं मया ते विहितं कुरुद्वः ध्रुवस्य विख्यात विशुद्धकर्मणः हित्वार्भकक्रीडनकानि मातुः गृहं च विष्णुं शरणं यो जगाम.
मया ते विहितं कुरुद्वः ध्रुवस्य विख्यात विशुद्धकर्मणः हित्वार्भकः क्रीडनकानि मातुः गृहं च विष्णुं शरणं यो जगाम.
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां चतुर्थस्कन्धे ध्रुवचरितं नाम 12ोऽध्यायः.
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां चतुर्थस्कन्धे ध्रुवचरितं नाम 12ोऽध्यायः.
श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां चतुर्थस्कन्धे ध्रुवचरितं नाम 12ोऽध्यायः.
अथ 13ोऽध्यायः. सूत उवाच निशम्य कौशारविनोपवर्णितं one word, comma, ध्रुवस्य वैकुण्ठ पदाधिरोहणं प्ररूढ भावो भगवत्यधोक्षजे, comma, प्रष्टुं पुनस्तं विदुरः प्रचक्रमे. सूत उवाच निशम्य कौशारविनोपवर्णितं ध्रुवस्य वैकुण्ठपदाधिरोहणं प्ररूढभावो भगवत्यधोक्षजे प्रष्टुं पुनस्तं विदुरः प्रचक्रमे.
सूत उवाच निशम्य कौशारविनोपवर्णितं ध्रुवस्य वैकुण्ठपदाधिरोहणं प्ररूढभावो भगवत्यधोक्षजे प्रष्टुं पुनस्तं विदुरः प्रचक्रमे.
सूत उवाच निशम्य कौशारविनोपवर्णितं ध्रुवस्य वैकुण्ठपदाधिरोहणं प्रारूढभावो भगवत्यधोक्षजे प्रष्टुं पुनस्तं विदुरः प्रचक्रमे.
Second line, first word, prarudha. And you said pra, just prarudha.
Prarudha, okay.
Vidura uvacha ke te pracetaso nama, comma, कस्यापत्यानि सुव्रत कस्यान् ववाये प्रख्याताः कुत्र वा सत्रमासत विदुरोवाच केते प्रचेतसो नाम कस्यापत्यानि सुव्रत कस्यान् ववाये प्रख्याताः कुत्र वा सत्रमासत
विदुर उवाच केते प्रचेतसो नाम कस्यापत्यानि सुब्रत कस्यान्ववाये प्रख्याताः कुत्र वा सत्रमासत
विदुर उवाच केते प्रचेतसो नाम कस्यापत्यानि सुव्रत कस्यान् ववाये प्रख्याताः कुत्र वा सत्रम् आसत
मन्ये महाभागवतं नारदं देवदर्शनं येन प्रोक्तः क्रियायोगः परिचर्या विधिर्हरेः मन्ये महाभागवतं नारदं देवदर्शनं येन प्रोक्तः क्रियायोगः परिचर्या विधिर्हरेः
मन्ये महाभागवतं नारदं देवदर्शनं येन प्रोक्तक्रियायोगः परिचर्या विधिर्हरेः
मन्ये महाभागवतं नारदं देवदर्शनं येन प्रोक्तक्रियायोगः परिचर्या विधिर्हरेः
स्वधर्मशीलैः पुरुषैः put a visarga comma next word ir goes away bhagavan yajnapurushah ijyamano bhaktimata narade neritah kila स्वधर्मशीलैः पुरुषैः भगवान् यज्ञपुरुषः युज्यमानो भक्तिमता नारदे नेरितः किल
स्वधर्मशीलैः पुरुषैः भगवान् यज्ञपुरुषः युज्यमानो भक्तिमता नारदे नेरितस्किल
धर्मशीलैः पुरुषैः भगवान् यज्ञपुरुषः पूरुषः इज्यमानो भक्तिमता नारदे नेरितः किल
यास्ता देवर्षिणा तत्र वर्णिता भगवत् कथाः मह्यं शुश्रूषवे ब्रह्मन् कार्त्स्न्येनाचष्टुम् अर्हसि that's one word so कार्त्स्न्येनाचष्टुम् अर्हसि यास्ता देवर्षिणा तत्र वर्णिता भगवत्कथाः मह्यं शुश्रूषवे ब्रह्मन् कार्त्स्न्येनाचष्टुमर्हसि
यास्ता देवर्षिणा तत्र वर्णिता भगवत्कथाः मह्यं शुश्रूषवे ब्रह्मन् कार्त्स्येनाचष्टुमर्हसि
यास्ता देवर्षिणा तत्र वर्णिता भगवत्कथाः मह्यं शुश्रूषवे ब्रह्मन् कार्त्स्न्येनाचष्टुम् अर्हसि
मैत्रेय उवाच ध्रुवस्य चोत्कलः पुत्रः पितरि प्रस्थिते वनं सार्वभौम श्रियं नैच्छत् so the that is there just break it it comma next word sanskrit अधिराजासनं पितुः मैत्रेय उवाच ध्रुवस्य चोत्कलः पुत्रः पितरि प्रस्थिते वनं सार्वभौम श्रियं नैच्छत् अधिराजासनं पितुः
मैत्रेय उवाच ध्रुवस्य चोत्कलः पुत्रः पितरि प्रस्थिते वनं सार्वभौमश्रियं नैच्छत् अधिराजासनं पितुः
मैत्रेय उवाच ध्रुवस्य चोत्कलः पुत्रः पितरि प्रस्थिते वनं सार्वभौमश्रियं नैच्छत् अधिराजासनं पितुः
जन्मनोपशान्तात्मा one word निस्सङ्गः समदर्शनः ददर्श लोके वितथम् इम next word sanskrit आत्मानं लोकमात्मनि स जन्मनोपशान्तात्मा निस्सङ्गः समदर्शनः ददर्श लोके विततम् आत्मानं लोकमात्मनि
सजन्मनोपशान्तात्मा निस्सङ्गः समदर्शनः ददर्श लोके विततम् आत्मानं लोकमात्मनि
जन्मनोपशान्तात्मा निस्सङ्गः समदर्शनः ददर्श लोके विततम् आत्मानं लोकमात्मनि
आत्मानं ब्रह्म निर्वाणं प्रत्यस्थमित विग्रहम् अवबोध रसैकात्म्यं breaking at that ma im आनंदम अनुसंततम. So you can break at both those mas. आत्मानं ब्रह्म निर्वाणं प्रत्यस्तमित विग्रहम् अवबोध रसैकात्म्यम् आनंदम अनुसंततम.
आत्मानं ब्रह्म निर्वाणं प्रत्यस्तमित विग्रहम् अवबोधरसैकात्म्यम् आनन्दमनुसन्ततम्
आत्मानं ब्रह्म निर्वाण प्रत्यस्तमित विग्रहम् अवबोधरसैकात्म्यम् आनन्दम् अनुसन्ततम्.
First line just before the comma, nirvanam, im sound there.
ஓ அங்க எனக்கு இல்ல அண்ணா சாரி.
Nirvanam, okay.
ஓகே மாத்திட்டேன்.
Avyavach chinna yogagni, put a plus, dagda karma malashayah, so that line is together. Swarupam avarundhano, natmanonyam tadaikshata.
திருப்பி ஒரு வாட்டி சொல்லுங்க லாஸ்ட் செகண்ட் லைன்.
Swarupam, breaking at that ma, avarundhano, natmanonyam tadaikshata, and the anyam that comes along with the previous word. So natmanonyam. Avyavachinna yogagni dhagda karma malashayah swarupam avarundhano natmanonyam tadaikshata.
अव्यवच्छिन्न योगाग्निदग्ध कर्म मलाशयः स्वरूपम् अवरुन्धानो नात्मनोन्यं तदैक्षत.
எப்படி சொல்லலாம்
Avyavach chinna.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே. अव्यवच्छिन्न योगानि दग्ध कर्म मलाशयः स्वरूपम् अवरुन्धानो नात्मनोन्यं तदैक्षत.
The first line just before the plus, yogagni, yoga agni, yogagni.
अव्यवच्छिन्न योगाग्नि दग्ध कर्म मलाशयः स्वरूपम् अवरुन्धानो नात्मनोन्यं तदैक्षत.
Jadandha bhadironmatta, put a plus again, bhadironmatta mukakritir, I'm just breaking at that ra there, mukakritir atanmatihi, the line is together. Lakshita patibalanam, prashantarchirivanalah. If you want to break it, it is prashantarchir ir ivanalah. Okay, if you want to break that. Jadandhabadironmatta mukakritiratanmatihi lakshitah patibalanam prashantarchirivanalah.
जडान्धबधिरोन्मत्त मूकाकृतिरतन्मतिः रक्षितः पथिबालानां प्रशान्तार्चिरिवानलः.
ओके. जदान्ध बधिरोन्मत्त मूकाकृतिर् अतन्मतिः लक्षितैः पतिबालानां प्रशान्तार्चिर इवानलः.
मत्वा तं जडम उन्मत्तं, कुल वृद्धा समन्त्रिणः वत्सरं भूपतिं चक्रुः, visarga comma. Next on that ya, if you have a ir that goes away, yaviyamsam bhramesutam. Matvatam jadamunmattam kula vruddha samantrinah vatsaram bhupatim chakruhu yaviyamsam bhramesutam.
मत्वातं जडमुन्मत्तं कुलवृद्धा समन्त्रिणः वत्सरं भूपतिं चक्रुः यवीयां सम्भ्रमे सुतम्
द्वातं जडम् उन्मत्तं कुलवृद्धः समन्त्रिणः वत्सरं भूपतिं चक्रुः व्याविशं
यवि यवीयांसं
ओके चक्रुः यवीयांसं भ्रमे सुतम्
and the first line just after the comma kula vriddhas samantrinah.
Okay, tapasul now no ati chelatama.
No, that's okay. As long as you have it, I think I don't. Something you said slightly different, but that's okay. Swar vitir. So two is coming there. Swar vitir vatsarasyeshtha, comma bharya suta shadatmajan pushparnam tigmaketum cha, comma ishamurjam vasum jayam. स्वर्वीतिर्वत्सरस्येष्टा भार्या सूतषडात्मजान् पुष्पार्णं तिग्मकेतुं च इशमूर्जं वसुं जयम्.
स्वर्वीथिर्वत्सरस्येष्टा भार्या सूतषडात्मजान् पुष्पार्णं तिग्मकेतुं च इषमूर्जं वसुं जयम्
स्वर्वीतिर्वत्सरस्येष्टा भार्या सूत षडात्मजं पुष्पार्णं तिग्मकेतुं च ईशमूर्जं वसुं जयम्.
And the first line, last word, shadatmajan, in end.
Okay, shadatmajan. Okay.
पुष्पार्णस्य प्रभा भार्या, comma दोषा च द्वे बभूवतुः प्रातः मध्यन्दिनं सायं, breaking at that ma, comma इति ह्यासन् प्रभासुताः. पुष्पार्णस्य प्रभा भार्या दोषा च द्वे बभूवतुः प्रातर्मध्यन्दिनं सायम् इति ह्यासन् प्रभासुताः.
पुष्पार्णस्य प्रभा भार्या दोषा च द्वे बभूवतुः प्रातर्मध्यन्दिनं सायम् इति ह्यासन् प्रभासुताः.
पुष्पार्णस्य प्रभा भार्या दोषा च द्वे बभूवतुः प्रातर्मध्यन्दिनं सायम् इति ह्यासन् सुताः. Sorry.
We'll do two more stanzas and I want to say some meaning of this today. Pradosho nishito vyushta, comma iti dosha sutastrayah vyushtas sutam pushkarinyam, comma sarva tejasam adhade. Pradosho nishito vyushta iti dosha sutastrayah vyushtas sutam pushkarinyam sarva tejasam adhade.
प्रदोषे निशितो व्युष्ट इति दोषा सुतास्त्रयः व्युष्टः सुतं पुष्करिण्यां सर्वतेजसमादधे.
I think the first word pradosho.
Oh, प्रदोषो निशितो व्युष्ट.
दोषो निशितो व्युष्ट इति दोषा सुतास्त्रयः व्युष्टः सुतं पुष्करीण्यां सर्वतेजसम् आधदे.
स चक्षुस् सुतमाकूत्यां, comma पत्न्यां मनुमवापः मनोरसूत महिषी, comma Virajan Nadvala. If you want to break it, Virajan Advala, but you can say it the double na. Virajan Nadvala Sutan. Sachakshus Sutamakutyam Patnyam Manumavapaha Manurasuta Mahishi Virajan Nadvala Sutan.
सचक्षुः सुतमाकूत्यां पत्न्यां मनुमवापः मनोरसूतमहिषी विरजान्नड्वला सुतान्.
सचक्षुः आकूत्यां पत्न्यां मनुम् अवापः मनोरसूत महिषी विरजान् नध्वला सुतान्.
One more. Purum Kutsam Tritam Dhyumnam, comma Satyavantam Ritam Vratam Agnishtomam breaking at that ma Agnishtomam Atiratram, comma, Pradyumnam Shibim Ulmukam. Purum Kutsam Tritam Dhyumnam Satyavantamritam Vratam Agnishtomam Atiratram Pradyumnam Shibim Ulmukam.
पुरुं कुत्सं त्रितं द्युम्नं सत्यवन्तं व्रतम् अग्निष्टोममतिरात्रं प्रद्युम्नं शिबिमुल्मुखम्
पुरुं कुत्सं त्रितं द्युम्नं सत्यवन्तमृतं व्रतम् अग्निष्टोमम् अतीरार्त्रं प्रद्युम्नं शिबिम् उलुं शिभि मुल्मुखम्
Shibhim Ulmukam.
शिबिम् उल्मुखम्. Okay.
Breaks at the mouth.
प्रद्युम्नं शिबिम् उल्मुखम्.
We'll pause here today. I'll just quickly say the meaning. If you so from here, from this Trayodashodhyayaha, the new Prithu Charitram starts. So in our name, it's Dashakam 18 Prithu Charitram. No, but that goes here for 6 chapters of it, though, right? Similar to Dhruva Charitram, right? So it little bit, if you remember the last chapter, it suddenly introduced the term Prachetas, right? Saying Narada was at the Prachetas' sacrifice. So here the first line, once in a while, the reminder comes, Suta Uvacha. So Suta Pauranika, having the conversation with the Saunakarishi at Naimisharanya, which our Madhu went and posted the pictures. So that is a once in a while reference saying that is the outer thread, the nested loop, right? That is the outer portion there. So he's continuing to say that this way, Maitreya is continuing the conversation. So just a reference, that's all. So Vidura is asking, you mentioned in the preview, you mentioned earlier about these Prachetas. So who are these Prachetas? Where did they come from? Where, how, like what lineage are they actually coming in? Whose sons are they? And you talked about some sacrifice that they were actually performing. What sacrifice were they performing? And Narada, like why did he go there, right? And what did he talk about? You said he spoke about Dhruva Charitra, but what else did he spoke about that? So all the questions that Vidura is asking, right? Continuation from the previous one with all of that. So with that, Maitreya starts by first talking about the lineage of Dhruva a little bit. And there's a lot of description of the layers and layers of Dhruva, which we won't go into detail, but I'll only call about the specific people. So the first one, it says when Dhruva left for the forest, right? One of his son, Utkala. So Dhruvasya Chotkala Putraha. Such a Utkala Putraha. So Utkala Putra, he said, you know what? Although Dhruva was ruling the entire world, he says, I am not interested, right? He is not interested in ruling at all. He says, from the very beginning, the son Utkala of Dhruva, he seemed to be like already a realized soul, right? So he was already beginning to see everything. He was not attached to anything material in nature. And he said he rejected all of this, the luxury and everything that Dhruva had, right? And then he was just in peace with himself. That's why the Yoga Agni. So he was actually getting purified internally with the Agni inside, right? The Yoga Agni, he was just burning away all his impurities and he was just focused on devotional service. Now, there will be couple of examples of people, and I want you to remember that, right? I'll tell you who all they are. The first is this person, Utkala. Second, we're going to see Jada Bharata. Third is going to be Rishabha Yogeshwara. All of these people, when they want to they are in that group of people who are very rich or materially inclined, right? In that group, but they don't want to be, right? They just act like Jada. They just act like mad people or people who are like dumb, right? Because when somebody acts really dumb and is of no value, people tend to ignore them. So they're happy in being themselves. Because if you're a normal person, then everybody wants to engage with you, which means you get sucked into a lot of different things, right? And these people are realized souls. They say, I don't want to get sucked into anything with anybody. So that's exactly how he was. So he was like a fire covered with ashes. So when you see the homam, sometimes it looks like it's ashes on the surface, but when you dig it in, there is actually fire burning inside, right? So he says that is how he is. He's spiritually very advanced inside, but from the outside, he looked like he was actually a jadam. So people ended up ignoring him. People said, oh, he cannot be worthy of ruling the kingdom. So let's just leave him alone. So he was happy with it. And then he never took on the kingdom. So there's just a little bit of description of that Utkal. That's all here about talking about his thing. And then it talks about a whole lineage of people who are actually born in the Dhruva thing. The one last thing, it ends up in 16 and 17, which is relevant to it, is a person called Anga. is actually born there. After a long lineage, right, of people, a person called Anga is born. Then the rest of the thing is going to be talking more about Anga, which we'll see in the next class. But there are two relevant people, actually, Chakshusha. So see, all of this happened during the first Swayambhuva Manu period. We are now in the Vaivasvata Manu, which is the 7th Manu. The 6th Manu is Chakshusha Manu. So the transition between Chakshusha Manu and Swayambhuva Manu is where Matsyavataram is going to happen later. So the Chakshusha Manu is born in the lineage of this Dhruva. So he's born significantly ahead. The Chakshusha Manvantram is going to come much later, right, after all of those things. But anyway, those are the only two relevant people who are born in the lineages. Chakshusha is born, and then Anga is born. So with that, we'll stop. That kind of takes up to 17. It talks about a lot of the other people, which we can skip. Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha. Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda. Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami.
Thank you,
everyone.
Rajesh.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Rajesh.
Rajesh.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Rajesh. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.